Hey, so I appreciate you guys coming.
Kirk Russell, please come to the athletic director's office immediately.
Where's Kirk? Kirk's out and about.
Are you Kirk?
Josh? No, he's not. It's Josh.
Oh.
Hey, so let me explain to you a little bit about why I'm doing this. I've called this Think Tank because I really want to give people the opportunity to get to know people who are a little farther down the line than they are in life, that have faced their own challenges, that are in the midst of facing challenges, and people who, by whatever definition you want to give, are successful leaders. So the first person we have in our series is Chief Jerel Haley, and he is the Atascadero police chief. Let me give you a little bit about him. He started his law enforcement career in 1991 in Santa Cruz, where he was a training officer. And then, correct me if I'm wrong on this stuff, and then he was part of a task force for street crimes and narcotics, was an undercover officer, and also worked on a sexual assault unit. 2000, he moved to the Central Coast, where he joined the Santa Maria Police Force. And while there, again, he was a supervisor of different organizations or different groups within the police force, K-9 program, gangs, narcotics, SWAT, detectives.
Kirk Russell, please come to the athletic director's office.
Come on.
Kirk's a busy guy. Yeah. And also in charge. Yeah.
It might take a little while to walk there.
And also in charge of the chaplains program. You are now the police chief of Atascadero since 2011. You are quite an educated man. You have an Associate of Arts degree in Administration of Justice, a bachelor's in the Administration of Justice. You have a master's in Strategic Leadership, and a graduate of the Supervisory Leadership Institute. You have a life beyond that. You are married. You have 5 kids.
5 total now.
5 total.
Combine a blended 5.
Blended family. You enjoy playing basketball and soccer, and you like watching football, and you're active in your church. So my first question for you is, who'd you cheer for in the Super Bowl?
I'm a Seahawks fan from the time I was like 11, 12 years old. You sit down. I am armed to the teeth, pal. Yeah, so once the Seahawks got out of it, I thought, well, I got to pick some other teams to watch. So I figured I like the stories of the Saints and the Chiefs, so I was going to root for both of them, and they both lost. And then what's going on? So then I had to decide in the Super Bowl. And my daughter is a Patriots fan. Her boyfriend is a Rams fan. So I picked the Patriots. So I was rooting for the Patriots. That's my story.
All right. Well, I have had the great pleasure of getting to know Chief Haley, and the one thing. There's several things I like about him, but the thing that I like most about him is how genuine he is and how he speaks from his heart. So,
and that I'm really super attractive.
There you go. And I hope that as you hear his answers to questions, that these questions aren't going to necessarily be just about, in fact, very few of them are about the police at all, but they're more about him as a person and him as a leader. So some of these questions are going to seem like, well, that's kind of a weird question to ask. I took a couple of these questions from a guy who wrote a book called Tribe of Mentors, and he worked for years on a set of questions to ask people. So a couple of them are those questions, but I hope you get to know him, and then if you got questions afterwards, maybe you can ask him. So here's my first question for you. Are you a reader? And if so, what book has had the biggest impact on you?
I am an avid reader, so I read a lot. When I first got out of high school, I was not a reader, and then I got a job in law enforcement, about 6 years out of high school, and what we had to do was write reports all the time. I was horrible at that, and my training officer said, well, when was the last time you read a book? And I couldn't remember. So I started reading again from that point on. I've been an avid reader ever since. Most of what I read now are leadership books, things that help me in my job and Are you Kirk?
No.
They've been looking for him, so
Would you go to the office and pretend to be? It'd be helpful. So leadership books tend to be, when you ask me what's the most impactful book, leadership books tend to be the ones I think of the most. There's one that I really like. It's called Drive by Daniel Pink. And in the book Drive, he talks about what motivates people to be good employees. And what we normally think motivates people is what? Money, right? You pay me more and I'll work harder. And he said that study after study after... Are you Kirk?
Still not.
Man. Come back in again and I'll ask again. So he says what truly motivates people are a couple of other things, although money can be a slight factor. He said mastery, autonomy, and purpose. Those are the three things that motivate people. So if you're working in a job and they give you the opportunity to become a master of your field, to become the best at what you do, that'll motivate you. Autonomy is this idea that you get to kind of work at your leisure, how you want, under what projects you want. So huge companies like Google and others, they give you the freedom and flexibility to kind of come and go as you please. They have table tennis, you can go down and play ping pong at the lunch break, or different things. So you have a lot of autonomy in your job. And then a sense of purpose is the other one. And Daniel Pink says people will work for nothing. You don't even have to pay people. There's people who volunteer their time and they'll give 80 hours a week as long as there's a sense of purpose in what they do. And so is the job that you're doing, educating young minds, is that purposeful enough to make you love being a teacher so that we don't have to pay you hardly anything and you'll still come and do it? That's the idea behind purpose. So that's probably the book that had the most impact on me, because it completely changed my thinking about what truly I needed to offer people in my department to give them a sense of belonging there.
Awesome. What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
In the last 6 months, it would have to be a new set of glasses. So I'm getting old. I know you don't think that because I look this good, but I'm older and older by the minute, and I've had to purchase a new pair of glasses recently because I can't see, like the things against the back wall are getting a little blurry now. So one of the things I have to be able to do is read a license plate. And I got to where I couldn't read license plates, and so
it's important.
I needed glasses for the first time in my life. I never knew.
Okay, if you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, getting your message out to millions or billions of people, what would your billboard say?
There was a billboard that I saw once that I have loved, and it was a big marijuana leaf, and it said, "Marijuana, it makes you respond to 'Hey stupid' 15 seconds slower." And so if I had the money, I would recreate that billboard right here in our local area. So
okay. That's good. That's good. Okay, last one of the kind of like crazy questions coming at you. What is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you just love?
Yeah, so I thought about that for a long time. It's not that unusual, but every day for breakfast I have the exact same thing, and I've been doing this for, 20 plus years. There's these Nature Valley bars that are like the chewy kind. So it used to be almond and peanut with a kind of like, now there's one that's a dark chocolate almond and peanut combination. So I have that and a can of Dr. Pepper every morning when I wake up.
There you go. And he is the picture of health. Right?
That's my breakfast. And it has been for 20 plus years. So
every day.
Every day.
Wow. Okay. So now we're going to hit you with some questions that might be a little bit more challenging or a little more personal. So answer these in whatever way you see fit.
Okay.
What is a significant challenge over the last 10 years that you've had to overcome, and how did you overcome it?
So I was in high school when I met Melissa Aldama, and we started dating when I was 15, and we broke up a little bit because I was in high school, and then we got back together when I was 16, and we were together for 30 years. We got married right out of high school at 19, and we were married for 27 years, together for 30 years. She was my high school sweetheart. And within the last 5 years, she died. She was sick for about 6 years total, and she ended up passing away. And at that point, my whole world kind of imploded a little bit, as you might expect. Everything that I had known for the last 30 years was kind of destroyed. And because of it, and my own stupidity, I made a series of kind of dumb decisions, and kind of became a really bad chief of police for about a year. I've been pretty open and honest about that because, you know, my people saw it happening, but I just was not doing the things that I needed to be doing. And then kind of came out of that situation and met the person who is my wife now, somebody that I had known since we were little kids, and have kind of patched my life back together with her, and we've been married for 2 years now. So in this 5-year window, I've kind of lost my wife, got into a bad situation, lost my best friend, and then now married my best friend's wife, and kind of put my life back together. And the one thing I can tell you about that is this. When I had Melissa as my wife, I was a really good chief of police. And then for a period of time, I wasn't a good chief of police at all. And then now that I have Holly in my life, my new wife, I'm a good chief of police again. And there's a book by Henry Cloud called The Power of Others. And really what it talks about is that who you put around you, who you have in your life, and around you in your life, can make a dramatic difference in who you're going to be and how effective and you're going to be in this life. And so what that has really shown me is that when I had the right person in my life, I was really good at being who I can be. And when I didn't have that person, I wasn't. And so putting somebody who's the right person back into my life has made me effective again and made me the person that I can be. And it's a reminder, and hopefully a reminder to all of you, that if you have somebody in your life right now that is not the kind of person that's making you better, it might be time to boot them out of your life, especially now while you have the chance to make better choices in who you put around you.
And I remember you sharing that story before, and I remember you reflecting back on if you could just have another day. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I've said it many times. So, you know, you don't realize what you have until it's gone sometimes as well. Some of you may have lost a parent, and you have this idea and understanding, if you could just have one more day back with that parent, it's worth the world to you. And what would you say, and how would you act, and what would be the things that you would do on that one day if you could just have one more day? And we live our lives without a sense of that. And certainly losing my wife gave me a tremendous understanding. The things that we think are important are just not important. And what really is important is so clear to me now. I used to argue over having to do things like do the dishes, right? I don't want to have to do the dishes and da-da-da-da-da. Well, if I could have my wife back just one more day, I'd willingly do the dishes for the rest of my life, right? The things that are important change when you suffer and experience loss. So definitely changes your mindset about things.
Right. How has a failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success? And do you have a favorite failure?
Yeah, that's a hard way of saying it. A favorite failure. You know, one of the things that I've told a lot of people is that I've had a really long, good career, and I haven't made a lot of mistakes, but the one mistake that I made kind of early on in my time at Santa Maria really stood out to me for a couple of different reasons. I was told not to do something, and I did it anyway. Basically, ignored the order that I had been given, and could have been severely punished for it. Could have been, basically, I was writing a search warrant on a case, but it was for some people that I knew. They were friends of mine, and my supervisor said, "Hey, you're too close to this investigation, and I want you to hand this off to somebody else." But I just didn't think that somebody else was going to give it the time and attention and the passion that it deserved, and so I did it myself anyway. And he could have disciplined me. He could have reduced my rank. He could have kicked me out of the specialty unit that I was in. My supervisor could have done a lot of different things to me. But because I had kind of established some credibility with him, he knew that that's not who I was, that this was a singular mistake. He demonstrated to me a lot of grace, a lot of ability to be able to see past this one mistake to who I really could be. And he gave me one of the worst lectures I've ever received in my career, and told me if it ever happened again that all hell was going to break loose on me. But ultimately he said, go back to work. And so it really has helped me. And now I'm responsible for not only disciplining people, but actually firing people. And it's helped me to have a much greater sense of, is this person salvageable or not? Something that we may fire somebody or, kill them for, not literally, but may punish them dramatically for. Is this something that is a one-time thing, or is this defining characteristics and traits for this person? So we've established within the city of Atascadero a method of disciplining that says, I'm issuing your discipline, and your discipline is harsh. 30 days off without pay, or a week off without pay, or letters of reprimand, but I'm going to hold that discipline in abeyance. And if you go, let's say, a year and you don't have that problem again, I'm going to take this discipline off of your record, so it won't be there anymore. Or in some cases we said, I'm going to make you go to some training. And if you go and complete this training at a high level to demonstrate the capabilities and aptitude for not getting into this situation again, then I'll reverse the discipline issue or matter that I've given you and make it something else. And it really has created a situation where people say, okay, I'm given the opportunity, I'm given the chance, I'm going to improve my behaviors and not have this again.
Awesome. Hey, so I remember you when you first took over.
Are you Kirk?
She's not Kirk either.
All right.
I remember when you first took over, or telling the story when you first took over at Atascadero, you wanted to see, you used one particular situation to kind of see what kind of officers you had. Do you remember telling that story? It was at a roll call. Stop me when you remember. And had to do with the janitors.
Yeah. So it's easy to give deference to somebody who's in a position of power and authority, right? If you see me walking down the street and you're one of my officers, you give me deference. You say, Chief, how are you? And you have a certain amount of respect for the position and for the authority that comes with my position. But one of the things that I've always been concerned with is who you are as a human being has nothing to do with what respect you'll show me, because you work for me and because I can dictate what's going to happen to you. But how you treat the janitor, that does dictate a lot of who you are as a person. And so one of the things that I have traditionally asked when I'm meeting somebody for the first time in a roll call situation or in a situation like the one I was in was, do you know the name of the janitor? Because I know that you know my name. You kind of have to. But if you've actually taken the time to get to know the person and show them deference when they're emptying your trash can, that shows who you are from a character standpoint. That shows who you are as a person, not how you treat me. And so one of the things that I asked in one of our earliest roll calls is, what's the name of the janitor here? And it was very interesting to see who knew and who didn't know.
Right. So judging people or getting to know people not based on their title, but just them as people.
Yeah.
Should respect each other.
Yeah.
We have that.
It really is
Something
based
everybody
on the
should work
premise that, so there's different jobs, right? I do a different job than some of my officers. But one job is not necessarily more important than another job. Because if nobody's emptying my trash and it piles up, and I can't even get in the classroom, and now I got disease and rats roaming around, then I've got a real problem. And so that job may seem to our minds less important, and the reality is it's not. That person, the individual doing that job, may seem less important, and the reality is they're not. We all have a certain amount of dignity that is due to us because of the fact that we're breathing, because we're human beings. And so we earn respect, and I'm very fond of saying when people have told me, you got to respect me, I said, oh, no, 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 no. I will treat you with dignity because of the fact that you're breathing, but you earn respect. And so the way that you treat people has a lot to do with whether I'm going to respect you or not. I'll treat you with dignity all the time. But if you want my respect, then treat people, especially the lowest of them, treat them with the kind of same dignity and respect that you treat your teachers.
Or better.
Well, you have to treat your teachers a certain way, or you're going to get disciplined, right? So it doesn't prove to me anything if you treat your teacher with respect. It just means you don't want to get in trouble. But how do you treat the people in your class who are maybe lower tier than you are in your socio status? That's what dictates who you are as a human being. And that's what will give you the respect that you deserve. Not how you treat somebody who can give you a detention or whatever. I don't know how you discipline people anymore.
Right.
We used to have detentions. Do we still have that?
We do.
Nice.
We do.
Right.
And they're quite popular. What experience in your life has done the most to prepare you to be a leader?
The best experience in my life that I could tell you is working for a really bad leader prepares you to be a leader better than anything else. If you really want to learn how to do a job, go work for somebody who does it really, really badly, and you're going to learn all of the mistakes that you never want to make. And so I worked for a couple of years in Santa Maria for somebody who was just one of the worst leaders that I've ever had the misfortune of being around. One of the things that truly defined him was just a complete lack of morality and standards. Somebody that, while he didn't break the law necessarily, just did things in a way that just showed a complete absence of a moral compass. And so I've always said, I'm gonna do my job better than the standard for which I'm held to. I'm gonna do it a little bit better than that, so that the moral compass and the moral standard which I'm holding myself to is more than anybody else will ever hold me to. So.
What's the toughest decision that you've had to make, and how did you make it? Sometimes students, they get in a tough situation, and how do I make this decision? What's a tough decision you've had to make, and how did you go about making it?
Yeah, so I've had personal life decisions and private life or professional life decisions, and what kind of clicked the most with this question was the decision whether to fire somebody or not. Has probably been the most absolutely painstaking, difficult decision that I've ever had to make. I never had to worry about that. When I was a cop for the first 20 years of my career, never had to worry about that. Life was easy. And then all of a sudden I'm in the chief's shoes, and now I'm making a decision that's going to have a dramatic impact on the life of this individual. Because if you get fired as a police officer, you'll probably never get hired in this career again. Very few departments are going to pick this person up and allow them to be a police officer. So in some cases, this is a dream somebody's had for years in their life, ever since they were little kids, some of these guys. And now I'm coming along and saying, you don't have the ability to do this job to the level that we need you to do, and so I'm going to fire you. And so by far, that decision has been the one that's caused me the most angst. It caused me to lose a lot of hair. And make a lot of the hair that I do have gray. So if you see hair coming out of my ears, it's all gray now. But it really is the most difficult decision that you're going to have to make, is a decision that will impact the life of somebody else in a dramatic way.
Right. So you talked about firing. Let's talk for a second about hiring. When you are looking for someone to hire, to have on your team, to hire at the police force, is there something that you're looking for in that particular person? And is there a make or break question that you ask that really determines whether or not they're going to get the job?
So when I first got the job as the chief of police, we hired several people, and I ended up having to fire 2 or 3 of them. And I was trying to figure out, what are we doing wrong? Like, how are we missing the boat here? And so we changed the criteria for hiring, and we say this: does this person make our organization better? And if they don't make our organization better, we're not going to put them in that chair. We're not going to put them in the seat. And so Because of that, we've actually changed the standard for who that minimum, what the minimum level is for somebody that we'll hire to a much higher standard. We eliminate a lot of potential police applicants who are going to go on and work for somebody else and probably get the job and probably be okay, but they're not meeting the level that we require at our department. We use a word, we say premier. We want to be a premier law enforcement agency. And that is the standard by which we judge people now, is does this person make us premier? And so if you're just okay, we don't want you. And we're not going to hire you. If you're average and this will be fine, basically you're just taking up a seat. And other people are having to come along and do your work for you in our agency. And so we're not going to hire you. So if you make us better, be prepared to get a job. And if you don't, be prepared to move on to the next organization. So.
What is the biggest problem you see this generation facing? High schoolers, you've got high schoolers at home. What's the biggest challenge you see them facing?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges is an ever-changing. So I'm gonna use some words that may sound a little weird and awkward. It's my vocabulary, so excuse me, but an ever-changing sense of where the moral standard is for society. Okay.